This episode is brought to you by the members of the You Run Podcast Network. All of their shows and our own can be found at yourunpodcast.com, along with links to our socials and to our shop. So please head over to yourunpodcast.com today and find your next podcast experience. We are the home of entertainment.
I think I prefer you like this. You're kind of cute. You're just like a little baby. Is the little baby ticklish?
Stop!
Is he?
You want to die tonight?
The dad jokes you tell sets the scene. I hang on every word lost in the screen. Your passion for fear is contagious enough. You make me believe in Mark's overblown roundups. You run podcasts for a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread, leaving me grinning long after I fled. But no, you run podcasts.
Hello and welcome to the You Run Podcast. My name is Scott.
And my name is Mark.
And we are the interactive horror movie review show that only seems to cover Don Mancini movies. Like, do you know, like last month we got stuck in this fucking Eggers time rift where all we reviewed was Robert Eggers minus one movie. And this month is rapidly becoming the same. Like, we put out the most varied polls of any show anywhere. And I don't know what is wrong with people. They're like,
I think we've come to the conclusion that our listeners are just basic bitches, and that's just where we need to live now.
So what we're saying is we cannot put any sequel in a following week poll. We need to make sure there are no.
Not just that though, but like
movies.
even if we throw like a curveball, like there's movies that we throw in there time and time again that are like cool movies, you know, like not necessarily like highly praised movies, but like when the polls come out, man, it's always just like people just pick, oh yeah, like that's a great movie, like which is good, but it's going to be like 5 years down the line once we've eliminated like every single popular movie before we can start doing shit. You guys need to be careful, right? And you need to spread this shit out because eventually you're going to burn through all this great content and great movies, and then you're going to spend the next 5 years listening to me and Scott talking about fucking Starship Troopers 12, you know what I mean? Because you've burnt through all your good content and we can't revisit episodes we've already done.
You say that though, we do also churn out a lot of crappy movies. Like we done 2 Sharknado movies last year. It's not like we don't chuck in our fair selection of shit along
yeah, but
the
that's
way.
us throwing our own 10 pence worth in, you know, like it's 90 slashers. It's 90 slashers, man. There is so many cool 90 slashers that went into the poll this month, and 2 of them are Child's Play movies. And I have nothing against that. I love Child's Play movies, but there was just such a cool variety of films for everybody to pick from.
Hey,
Here we are, man.
Yeah, people like Child's Play. Those polls we were talking about go out on Instagram. We're at You Run Podcast. Any other social media platform you're on, type in at You Run Podcast. The chances are we're there. While you're on Instagram, type in at Reviews from the Crypt and at VHS from the Crypt, and you will find my mustachio friend, Mark, who will bring you some excellent content. Don't twizzle your mustache at me.
That was quite a cool look for me, actually. I like that. That was all right. I can't replicate it again now.
No, you're one of 2 things in that pose. You're either a villain from a silent movie, or you should be kicked, have a restriction of how close you can go to schools. And I'm not sure which one.
I'm surprised the Dick Dastardly jokes haven't started coming out yet, to be honest with you.
I'm saving them. For a special occasion. We also have a website, yourunpodcast.com. There you'll find links to everything, all of our shows, all of our socials, all the members of the You Run Podcast Network, and our shop, and everything else in between. If you've never listened before, we give you a brief synopsis of the movie. We give you what we liked, what we didn't like. We're very, very, very spoiler heavy. After we've done our review, don't just fuck off and disappear, which I can see from the analytics. A chunk of you do. Not many, but there's a chunk of you that listen to our review and go, great, and switch us off. If you hang around, we give you loads of movie facts. We play a game. We do lots of other cool stuff and check our voicemails and all that sort of shit. So stick around for that. It is week 3 of 90 slashers. And like we said, you've given us absolutely no fucking variety at all. So we're going to review another movie from the Child's Play franchise.
To be fair, though, man, I like the consistency. Like, if I had full control of this show, it would be in order. Like, we would be like, we're doing Child's Play, so we do 1, 2, 3, 4, Seed, Curse, Cult. Then we'll talk about the TV series for an episode, and then we'll pick another franchise, and then we'll go through those in order, and it will be uniformed, and there will be no bitching and moaning, and that's how the show is running. So thank God you're here, Scott.
No, don't thank me, because I'm anal enough that I would do the same, which is why neither of us have full control over the show. We let everyone else do it. Hence, you run podcast. Make sure you rate and review us everywhere you can. So that's 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify. Subscribe and click the notification bell on YouTube. That's the best way you can help us reach new audience and help us grow. And if you're not going to buy anything from our shop and put something in our pocket, like financially to help the show, that is the best thing you can do. So yes. Chucky is back once more. This time he has the assistance of the ever incredible, the incredibly sexy Jennifer Tilly, or Tiffany Valentine. After a little bit of sewing and a quick bit of voodoo for dummies, the doll is back together and ready for a killing spree. The only problem is Tiff is not feeling her new bite-sized boyfriend and locks him in a playpen. After he escapes, he kills Tiffany and transfers her soul into a good guy-like doll. Now their goal is to work together to collect an amulet that has always existed but never been mentioned in the entire franchise up until now. A couple of teens into doing their bidding with a ridiculous plot that completely retcons the entire franchise in every possible way, and some of the dumbest stuff ever in a Child's Play movie. Today we bring you the wonder that is Bride of Chucky.
Yay!
Yay!
That's an excited Jennifer Tilly. That's as excited as she gets about this episode.
Yay!
Dude, where do you want to start? What are your thoughts? Where do you want to go with this?
Do you know, I want to start with a bit of backstory to Bride of Chucky on this show. This was voted on before. Do you remember this?
I'll be honest with you, dude. I thought we'd already done this episode.
Yeah, so this was voted on. This was a poll-picked movie, and we had prepped the episode. We were ready to go, and then we binned it. And we binned it off because we got the opportunity to do the Welder episode with David Liz and Vincent DePaul and introduce everyone to a brand new movie. And we were meant to do it later, and we never did. So both you and me have written all the notes and done all the prep for this, and then never ever released the episode.
I knew that was the case. I didn't know that was the factual case, but I was like, dude, man, we've done this. And I even, when you was like, oh yeah, we'll put Bride in the 90s poll, I was like, no, dude, we've done Bride already. And he was like, no, we haven't. I was like, dude, I swear to God, I fucking watched this movie. I took notes. I prepped for the show. I've fucking done Bride on the show. And then, yeah, well, that makes perfect sense now. So we have, in a sense, already done this prep, and the conversation just never got aired.
The thing is, though, like, I was so convinced that we had done it. I even went and scrolled back through all of our episodes on Spotify to double check, because I was like, I'm sure we've spoken about Bride. We have. We've done it. I know we've done it, but we haven't.
Dude, I swear we had. I swear we'd done this movie.
Yeah, we genuinely haven't.
No, which is wild. Which is wild.
It's another Mandela effect. The You Run podcast somewhere in another dimension released Bride of Chucky.
No, we can't use that word on the show. Heather gets really, really riled when you say the Mandela effect.
She does. That's because the Mandela effect doesn't work in Texas.
Yes, this must be it. Must be it.
Yeah.
Donald Trump's got a shield on Texas.
There is only one place I want to start with this, and that is Jennifer Tilly. Jennifer Tilly is the fucking crowning jewel of the Child's Play franchise, and I will not hear anything but that.
Fuck you, man. No, she's not.
She is incredible, especially in this movie. Her character is fucking brilliant, and she plays off of the Chucky doll character and Brad Dourif's voiceover. Like, those two voices together are perfect. Like the dialogue between the two of them, like I can't fault Jennifer Tilly in this. She nails every single performance. And I'm not gonna lie, as a red-blooded straight white male, she is very, very, very nice to look at. Like
Fire.
the the scene where she's bringing Chucky back to life, she picks up the doll from the police. She bribes someone at the police station to get the broken Chucky doll, and she stitches it all back together. And I love that opening scene, by the way. Really, really
Yes.
cool.
Yeah, we'll
Really
circle
cool.
back to that after you finish
Yeah.
declaring your love for Jennifer Tilly.
Have you seen the photos of Jennifer Tilly at 60? Even now, just wow.
Yeah, I've seen her in the latest series of the Child's Play continuation. She's great. She's great. And I love this movie, but I find it really difficult to talk about this movie without introducing the direction it then went from this. You know what I mean?
Don't do
Like,
it. Don't do it. I covered
I
Seed. We
know
don't need to talk about Seed. We just
it's not
don't.
just necessarily Seed, it's like the franchise as a whole, the direction it's taken off the back foot of Bride of Chucky. And I love this movie as an isolated movie. I think it's really, really entertaining. But I think the way that the franchise shoehorned everything else that was involved in this is just so fucking strange, man. Like, I love Jennifer Tilly. I think she's fantastic in Bride of Chucky. But it pisses me off that she becomes such a focal character in the franchise. Like, she becomes more pivotal to the story going forward than Chucky himself after this movie. And it annoys me, do you know? And I find it really hard to see past that when I'm watching Bride of Chucky, because as an isolated movie, this is fantastic. But it is the fucking decline, man. It's like the same way when you discuss the Nightmare franchise, you hit a point where you're like, this is a movie where Freddy slowly. Dream
Yeah,
Warriors. This is the Dream Warriors of the Child's Play franchise. This movie's
it is.
fantastic, but it's also
Yeah,
that point where you hit it and you're like, oh, fuck, I know what comes next now.
yeah. And like Dream Warriors, this is where they should have gone. Do you know what? Brilliant. That's a wrap. Thanks very much. I'm going to go make another franchise now.
But that's the thing. Like, I always boast about how I love Nightmare on Elm Street 2 as my favorite, and I still stand by that. I think that is the best in the series. And I enjoy Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. I think it's a really, really good movie. But the showcase of elements within that film highlights so much what comes after it that I'm like,
Yeah.
that's the point of decline. Even though that movie is a high and it's a peak, you can see certain situations within that movie where you know that that's what continuates the downfall of the franchise. And
all,
this movie does that. Even though I
all
like
of our,
Bride, I hold it responsible for what comes after.
all of our listeners are thinking exactly the same thing I am. What movie in the Halloween franchise is that peak where it's then a decline rapidly after?
It's Halloween 4, but you know I love that movie. But it is like Halloween 4 is the best. Halloween 4 is the best in that franchise, but it's also
We've
responsible for so
yeah,
much that comes after it. Bride,
we've had.
it's
I'm
not
not
the best
arguing.
because Child's Play 2 is the best, but Bride is also a peak. It's a great movie, but it also incorporates so many elements that causes a downfall of the franchise. Same as Dream Warriors. Dream Warriors is peak. It's really, really good. It takes so much of the franchise that I love from the first two movies. It incorporates it, enhances them, but it incorporates elements that I'm like, I can see where you're going with this, and this is going to fucking cause you some problems down the road. And that's why I dislike Dream Warriors. And I know Dream Warriors is a good movie, but I can't see past the fact that that's where they peak and that's what causes the rest of the decline. And Bride is the same for me within the Child's Play franchise. It's just, it's good, it's great. In many places, it's fucking spectacular, but it's like you just don't know how to deal with it from this point on. So you go in a completely wild direction.
Yeah, which is fine because we're only reviewing this movie, and we're going to stick as much as we can within this movie. Jennifer
You're going
Tilly
to
with
struggle to raid me in, mate. I'll be honest with you.
Jennifer Tilly with the voodoo for dummies to bring
Brilliant.
Chucky back is hilariously funny and wildly erotic all at the same time. Like, I don't know why she needed to get in the full like lingerie fishnet tights like bodice to do this, but I appreciate the fact that Don Mancini went, that's what we're doing here. Like, I was like,
Yeah, because she's
great.
about to sex up fucking
Ah,
David Arquette's brother, sister.
what, like that guy, like her boyfriend, should we call him? What is he wearing? Like,
Is he dead now? I think
I
he
think so.
died. Or she
Yeah,
died. I don't want to dead name anything. I don't know the technicalities
yeah. And
of it. But
we're not
he
we're not talking about the actor or actress. We're talking about the character. Like that character is meant to be a goth character. I grew
yeah.
up in the 90s. Goths did not dress like that, not ever, not anywhere, never. Just wasn't a thing.
Yeah, but did you ever see a goth spread eagle on a bed ready for some loving?
I would like to move on from that question.
I cannot confirm or deny.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman. um,
uh,
I love this. I love the fact that she thinks she's failed as well and does the whole like, oh, for fuck's sake, and throws the book. And it's not until
yeah,
she's about to get down and dirty with her male caller that Chucky's like up. And like for Chucky, it's a real basic bitch kill. He smothers him with a pillow.
mm. Yeah, it's weak. It's weak as an introduction as well. Let's talk about Chucky's look in this because it's fucking fabulous. And I
Best
like,
look in the whole franchise. This is the best the Chucky doll has ever looked by miles.
yeah, agreed, agreed. I think he looks absolutely fantastic. And in terms of iconic look, this is the one, especially within horror aficionados, when they talk about the Child's Play franchise, this is the one that they tend to go to in terms of
Yeah.
how Chucky should and should not be. I like the continuation. This just brings me back to the opening. Let's talk about the opening. We did this on the last episode in Child's Play 3. What are your thoughts on the cold open in terms of Chucky's, not necessarily his resurrection, but he's almost the way he manages to come back from the events of the previous, sorry, Child's Play 3.
Best cold open in the franchise.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Dude, better than Child's Play 2?
Yeah.
Better than Child's Play 3?
Yeah, so this has done away with all the factory setting. This has given you him being picked up from the police impound, where we see some really cool shit that we'll talk about in facts. And then you see this like hand stitched back together Chucky. It's so cool. Like, I love like all the close up shots of him being stapled and put back together. Like, I think this is brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
It's really funny because when I watched Child's Play 3 and I saw his demise at the end and he got absolutely fucking shredded by that fan, I was like, there is no way they could have put him back together like the way they did in Child's Play in Bride of Chucky. But I like the way that Jennifer Tilly is obsessed with dolls. So she had all these spare parts that she stitched him with. And again, Bride of Chucky, you know, like the whole Frankenstein thing plays a big role throughout this movie. And she had all these spare parts in order to manufacture him to the look that he is now. And I think he looks incredible. I think I believe in the continuity of him coming back from the aftermath of part 3, because I think the death in part 3 left a lot of like, well, how? Like there is so many scattered pieces now, like that, like it's so difficult in order to do that. So I do think I do think that the opening to this is really cool in terms of the Frankenstein insinuation and bringing him back to life. I think it works really well in terms of digestibility of continuation. Again, yeah, I think this is the best he's looked. Man, every time we talk about these movies, I always want to go to the next, because what happens in the next is just fucking magical. Magical. Like that whole fucking red herring thing, man, when it starts peeling off and it reveals it's a scarred up one from this movie. I'm like, that's why he looks different. That's so fucking cool. Hopefully we'll get there at some point on the show.
Yeah, I've already covered it way back when, right in season 1, but it's definitely enough time now for that to be a revisited episode. Definitely enough time,
because that is a highlight of a movie for me within this franchise. I think in terms of like order, I would probably go 1, 2, 3, Curse, Cult, then circle back to Bride, Seed. I think that would be my order.
I'm going to save my where they all sit till later, because I think my score on this will give you a good indication of where this lives in the franchise for me.
Okay.
The fact that she's like, "Oh, you're back. This is wonderful," and she goes, "I found the ring you left for me," and Chucky's like, "What fucking ring?" And she's like, "This ring," and he's like, "Oh yeah, the ring I took off that woman. That's not worth at least $6,000." And she's like, "So you're not going to marry me?" And he just laughs his fucking head off. He's like, "Are you fucking nuts?" And with that, she locks him in the playpen. Like, that whole segment is so funny to me. Of like, he's a doll. He has Jennifer Tilly declaring her undying love for him, and he's like, "No, just no, absolutely not." And I'm like, "Really? Like, why? Why not?"
And I think as a whole, this movie does a really good job of handling that sort of, because when you watch these child play movies, everyone's like, "Oh yeah, who do you think you would be most scared of?" It's like, would you be scared of Chucky, or would you be more scared of Michael Myers, or would you be more scared of Chucky, or would you be more scared of Freddy Krueger? It all boils down to the fact that if Chucky was there presented to you, you would just kick that little fucker in the head.
Yeah,
And I think this movie does a good job of showcasing that, where Jennifer Tilly locks him in the child's crate. It's like, shut the fuck up, Chucky. Get in this cage.
yeah,
There's nothing you can do. And they do that on regular occurrences throughout this film, which I think really amplifies a lot of the thought processes many people are thinking. And I think when they were writing this movie, or at least Don Mancini, when he was writing this movie, he must have had to take into consideration a lot of the disbelief that most people had in terms of,
yeah.
is he that
You
scary as a doll?
you
Like,
just
it's a
kick
human
him.
doll. Like, you just kick
Yeah,
him, you know? It's like in like Child's Play 3 at the end, where like Tyler's carrying him around, he's holding that gun to Tyler. I'm like, Tyler, if you literally just threw your arm out, like, he's not going to perfectly aim at you as you throw him away into the fucking foreground, you know, and you've got enough time to run away. He's not going to catch you.
yeah,
So I think this movie does a good job of addressing the fact that they are dolls, and especially after Jennifer Tilly's death, um, when they realize the actual mission of the movie is to find the heart of Dumbala, and it's like, how the fuck do you propose we drive there? I'm a doll. You're a doll. Do you steer and I push the pedals? What the fuck do you think we can do? And I'm like, yeah, exactly. What are you fucking gonna do? You know, you're a doll. How does this work? And I think
yeah.
this
And
movie handles that really, really well.
they do that really well, and they also introduce the other characters really well. So you've got the young guy who lives on the trailer park with Jennifer Tilly,
Mhm.
who I'm going out on a limb now and saying he's gay. At this moment in time, he's closeted gay, because Jennifer Tilly basically offers him all the love in the world he could possibly want. He's like, "No, I've got a girlfriend." I'm like, "It's Jennifer Tilly. You've just been
Dude, he's in
told
love,
by,"
man. He's in love. He's in love, dude, man.
but
Don't fuck with love.
he's just been banned from seeing this girl forever because he's a bad influence. He's a bad guy.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I was like, dude, fucking do
It's,
it, man.
it's Jennifer
What's wrong with
Tilly.
you? What's wrong with you, man? They fucking, yeah, definitely do that shit. But
So,
at the same time, love, man. You can't argue with love.
I love Lisa with all my heart. Jennifer Tilly lives on my hall pass list.
I hope she's listening to this episode, dude, because you're getting married next year.
It's a hall pass list. It's an open hall pass list that she is aware of, and Jennifer Tilly holds a place on that list.
Do you actually have a hall pass list? Is that a
Yeah,
thing? I
yeah,
don't hold
we
one of
do.
those with my wife. We don't have a hall pass list.
Oh, you need to get one. They're so much fun. Like, you're never going to meet these people, and it's completely fictitious. And if you did, they're never going to want to have sex with you anyway. But it's just a
Yeah,
funny
I love
little.
I love the idea of a hall pass where people are like, yeah, if I met Richard Gere, I'm allowed to have sex with him. It's like Richard Gere's just sat in an elevator waiting for people with hall passes. Like, oh yeah, next please, next.
Yeah, like, it's such a silly thing, but it's one of those things that when we watch a movie, like we watch Bride together, I'm like, I almost have a free pass to go, "Oh God, Jennifer Tilly, look at that woman. Look at how magnificent she is." And it's kind of accepted more than if I'd done it with just some random person.
I just feel like that is an invitation for arguments. Do you know what I mean?
It depends on
Like,
how
that is
it's
an
done.
invitation for arguments to be like, why do you like her so much? What is it about her that I don't have? Oh,
Yeah.
you like her, do you? Because she's really fucking skinny. Is that what you're into? Is it? Oh yeah, yeah. She's got brown hair. Do you like brown hair, babes? Do you? Is that what you're into? Is it? It's like,
Yeah.
dude, why even fucking walk the plank? You know what I mean? Like, why even tread the water? It's just not worth the fucking hassle.
Well,
My wife's name out your fucking mouth.
Exactly that.
but
Exactly that, Will Smith.
I had a play with that, and I found a better version after a little bit of tinkering.
Fucking my wife's mouth.
Dude, there's not many people I dislike on this planet, but Jada Pinkett Smith, you should have stayed in California, bitch.
We'll move past the Jada hate. The whole, like, the amulet is the biggest issue I have with this movie. So Chucky's like, I need my amulet. It was buried with my body right back in 1988. And this allows me to transfer my soul into anybody that I want.
But did he have the amulet in the original?
No,
because I watched them all in succession, but then when it got to the point where we was at Bride, I was like, oh shit, I don't know if he had that in the first or not.
No, this amulet is just something that's fictitiously made up in part 4 because they're like, well, we can't use Andy Barclay now. They still need to try and get into a body. How do we make that work? Oh, there's an amulet that we've never mentioned before that's conveniently buried with him. Oh, that also gives us our story because they now need to go and get it. It's like, oh, fuck off.
I'll be honest with you. The news article of him dead in the toy factory wearing the amulet looked very CGI. So I was like, maybe it's not in the first. But I was like,
Yeah.
I can't be sure because I can't remember whether he was wearing it in the first movie or not. But still, again, we spoke about this last week. It's a digestible enough exaggeration on the law. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like where you're there and you're like, oh, fuck off, dude. You've just written that in. Like I can swallow that pill quite easily and be like, yeah, of course. Yeah, it's fucking voodoo.
The thing is, as soon as you swallow a white voodoo guy putting his soul into a doll that survived 3 destructions, as soon as you can, if you buy into that, like you can buy into anything at this point. Like if you buy into that and you're on board with this, they could go, oh, now he's got the power to magically jump from body to body because he found this spell, and you're going to go, yeah, okay, yeah, fine, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't something that I looked on the law and I was like, like I even questioned the believability of it being in the first movie. I was like, I think maybe he was wearing that in the first movie. You know, I don't know.
No,
so if he wasn't, he wasn't, fair enough. But still, it makes sense. It's a logical leap in order to expand the law. So I don't hate it. I think it's a wise enough choice to utilize that angle to deviate from the original continuity. I think utilizing something like an amulet, even though it's a wink to the camera as if to say, hey, Indiana Jones, I kind of think that is more digestible than what they did in the previous 2 movies. You know, because we can break the previous 2 movies down and be like, well, yeah, but that doesn't work and that doesn't work. But at least in this, it's a case of,
yeah,
had he been wearing that in the first movie, we would have been like, oh yeah, of course, yeah, he needs that amulet. That amulet will then enable him the ability to transform into anybody, regardless of age or fair sighting or anything.
Yeah, and like, how do you feel about? So he kills Jennifer Tilly, and he does it with a toaster in the bath, which instantly
TV in the bath, and it's playing the Bride of Frankenstein, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah, cool, great, love that. And the fact he then puts her soul, just out of spite, not for any other reason, he puts her soul in the bride doll that she gave him as his new girlfriend. I like her reaction to it. She's like, it's almost like what have you done to me? And there's this whole like doll makeover scene. And the fact that there's so much continuity here that she collects dolls. So of course she's got a denim skirt and a leather jacket and a blonde, like all this shit just works.
Doc Martens for a fucking doll and all the rest of it. Yeah, I love it. I think it's handled really well. I think it looks great. I think it's a fantastic job. I think one thing that I really appreciate about this movie, which was something we touched upon last week on Child's Play 3, is they don't highlight enough the man behind the doll. But I think this movie really focuses upon the fact that he is Charles Lee Ray, he is a serial killer, regardless of his persona trapped inside this body of a doll. The interactions with him and Jennifer Tilly and the backstory that comes with it, they really focus upon that. Yeah, he's stuck inside a doll, but this is one of the most notorious serial killers who's ever lived. A line that Chucky delivers at some point. I don't know if it's this movie, a previous movie, or one that comes after. But it's an iconic line. The most fucking notorious serial killer that ever lived. And I think they do a good job of focusing upon that in this movie and highlighting how dangerous this man is, regardless of his current situation. And I really appreciated that a lot in this film. The thing is that I find the most difficult to digest. This is fucking Brian. Is it Brian Yun? Is it Brian Yu?
Yeah.
Brian Yu?
Brian Yu.
This dude, man, this dude fucking caused some serious damage in the 90s. He caused some serious fucking damage to the horror franchise in the 90s. He did this, he did Freddy versus Jason, and
Yeah.
say
Both
what you
awesome,
will, man.
awesome
No,
movies.
no, dude,
Yeah,
dude,
both
dude.
awesome movies. I'll defend both of these movies till the end.
No, this guy, I mean, he highlighted what was great about the 90s, and he brought together. Do you know what I will give him credit for? His fucking use of score, man. His use of music and his use of soundtrack and his use of score. This movie is delightful on the ears. The score for Chucky and the elements that they incorporate within the soundtrack, not just necessarily like the music. Rob Zombie, eat your heart out. There's fucking about 6 Rob Zombie songs in this film, and I love it for that.
Great.
But the score itself is really, really cool. Like, they move away from that child's play. Do you know, like the jukebox winding up with the orchestral thing in the background? Like they go for a real sort of like Twin Peak-esque kind of element to the score, and he has his own sort of theme whenever something exceptional happens within his presence, and it sounds magnificent, man. And I think, I don't know if Roddy, you had any influence in that or not, but I think score-wise and soundtrack-wise, this movie is fucking peak, man. I was watching this film and I was sat there and I was like, oh, I love this song. Oh, I fucking love this song. Dude, that song's fucking awesome. And I'm just sat there not paying attention to the film. I'm just adding every single song that's playing in this movie to my Amazon Alexa fucking playlist. I'm like, this is great.
The soundtrack for this is fabulous. And like, as soon as you hear for me, as soon as I heard Rob Zombie, I'm like, yes, this movie knows exactly what it is, exactly who it's aimed at, and it's aimed at me. I'm fully on board for this. And also, I love the way that they come up with the plan. Like, well, I've got this dumb kid who, like, I know he needs loads of money and he's just having problems with his girlfriend. He needs some cash. So I'm going to leave a note outside and he's going to like take the, so she rings him as the doll. Like, yeah, I need you to take these dolls to my friend. And she's got to take him to the cemetery. And he comes in and she's like, how do I do this? Like, how do I like freeze? Like, no, it's just like, just act natural. And then when the boy comes in to collect him, she's got a hand on her head, like swooning. It's fucking so good.
That's another thing, man. Like the one that was the best was when she'd finally got the get up on and she was like in the leather jacket with the bridesmaid's dress and she lights a cigarette. Dude, she should have said, and Chucky, what did Chucky said to her? He was like, oh my God, I think I'm in love. Oh no, that was later on when she kills the guys on the waterbed. He said something like, oh, holy shit, or something like that. She should have 100% said in that moment, tell me about it, stud. And she didn't.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, why did you not? Why did you not take a Grease Lightning quote here and there?
They went with Barbie eat your heart out instead.
Barbie eat heart, which is still a cool line.
Yeah.
But tell me about it, stud was fucking there on the table, man, and they didn't take it.
I want to talk about the hotel that they stop in. So the boy and his girlfriend transport Chucky and Tiffany to the most seedy motel in the world and have the weirdest interaction that just doesn't feel like it fits in the movie with this weird swinger couple. Explain? Like, I was like, bit odd.
Yeah, I don't get this myself, to be honest with you. I don't know if they were like sharing rooms or it was just an interconnecting door like
Just,
you often get in hotels. But
yeah, just
I,
interconnecting door, and then like there's this random couple in their 40s is like,
well,
you're
they're
young.
thieves, aren't they? They're thieves. They came in and they stole the £500 money that they had, and they also stole the engagement ring that Chucky had at the beginning.
Yeah.
So they were just there for the rob. And again, it was
And
just a body
and
count.
a
It was
foursome.
just a body count.
Yeah, but they were also there for a foursome because they tried really hard to get this young couple to join them for the evening.
So
So
in
yeah,
terms of foursomes, like, would you, if you and Lisa, say you and Lisa had been in this situation, you'd gone to a hotel. Another couple just happened to stumble upon your room. They came in and was like, "Hey guys," and being all strokey feely. Like, what would unfold? Explain the dynamic to me between your perception of it and Lisa's perception of it, and what decision you guys would go for.
see, I think we'd both look at each other as if to say this is fucking weird, and then we'd bail.
You'd bail.
Yeah, I don't. I, I'm a very selfish person. I am not up for sharing my wife at all. I'm just not like I'm with Lisa because I love Lisa, and yeah, I'm not I'm not up for just letting some random dude.
Go to town.
Yeah, it's not for me. How about you? Are you feeling the swinger lifestyle?
I'm not. No, no. And I'm kind of with you, and I kind of would, but I feel like in that situation there would be an element of curiosity. I know full well my wife would be like, fucking rein it in, in that moment.
Yeah,
But there would be an element of curiosity that'd take over, I think. And I'd be like, I think it also depends on the amount of beers I've drank that evening.
yeah.
If I'd had like 6 or 7 beers and I was like, hey, babes, come on, man, good night. Let's just fucking roll with it. We'll forget about it tomorrow.
You don't get
But
this off every week.
in a sober state, I would like, no, you fucking praise to the Lord, you dirty, dirty people. However,
Yeah,
after a couple of pints, I'd maybe be slightly inclined to be like, maybe we should live a little.
the thing is though, if you do that, then 10 minutes later you're saying this.
Fucking my wife's mouth.
Dude.
To get over seeing that. That'll scar you forever. Uh, no shaming against anyone who does go swinging. Like, power to you. I'm not willing to do that. It's just not
No,
for me.
no, 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 no. Don't get me wrong. I think had there not been a male present and it was a selfish embargo.
See, this might like if it was Lisa and another
I say
girl.
this like I could satisfy more than one woman at a time, like I'm a fucking Hercules. I know full well I couldn't. Um, but the dream lives on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, in truth, though, the reality of that is not all that great.
No, 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 no. It's going to be a very disappointing evening for everyone involved, I'll be honest.
It's a very disappointing evening as a guy. It's a very pressured situation that's not.
I mean, I'll get my 5 minutes of fame, but everyone else involved, it's just going to be, okay.
Yeah,
Coffee.
it is very much like that. And I'm speaking for someone who has been in that situation. It's not as good as everyone makes it out to be. It's really not.
Fuck off, Carol Cockring. Don't don't skate over that. Don't skate over that like you fucking lived the life, man, without expanding upon it.
The listeners are here to listen to about horror movies. I will tell you off the air my
No,
story.
No,
about,
you've taken this in a different direction now, and we
no,
need justification on your story.
If people want to hear the story, call into the show. You could do that by sending us a voicemail on X or Instagram. And if I tell you
will
what,
maybe put a Patreon episode out.
Now, if we get three calls requesting that story, I will share that story of the very disappointing, embarrassing, and slightly disturbing threesome that I had when I was in my 20s.
Dude, I can call it out right now. Heather, call in. Jim, call in. Gareth, call in. Even Eric, call in. Do you know, there's four. Like these guys call in all the time. If you don't back this story up now, just so we can get a
Yeah,
resolution to it, I'm disappointed
Dave.
in you all.
Dave calls in as well. There's so many
Dave,
people who call it
Dave,
Lady
five. That's
Crisis,
five, Dave. Yeah,
Lady Crisis,
everybody get
Yola.
behind this so we can get some resolution to Scott's weird.
Yeah.
You know what, dude? Weird guy you are. There is some stories in your past that I feel very uncomfortable with.
Well,
True classic. Never goes out of style.
right, back to this movie.
Yeah, you rein it in, man. You rein it in.
So Tiffany breaks the mirror above the two swingers after they've gone and kills them, and then going straight back into the weirdness, we get a full like Team America style sex scene with Tiffany and Chucky that I don't know how I feel about this.
Right, so dude, the thing is, this week I've been swamped with work. I've been absolutely fucking swamped. And I do this thing where like I'll try and prep as much as I can for the week for the episode throughout the week, but we've just had a new baby, so life's hard. And then the only time me and my wife get to socialize is on a night after work, and we get like 2 hours before we're both fucking absolutely licked and want to go to bed. So like prep time for the show is far and few and in between. So to prep for this actual episode for Bride of Chucky, it was like I had like 2 hours in between jobs. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I'll just driving to like a fast food place. I'll go get something to eat, McDonald's, KFC, whatever you want to call it. Grab something to eat. Went and sat in like the car park. Took my tablet with me, which obviously has all my media and all the rest of it on it, and I set up Bride of Chucky on my steering wheel. Cars came and went, and then this car like pulled right up next to me, like right up next to me, next to my cars. I'm sat here watching the film, but like so I'm parked facing onto the parking spot, and then they pulled in next to me, but to the point where they were far enough back that they could see the vision of what I was watching.
Yeah.
They pulled in just as it got to the point where we had a fucking full-on sex doll sex scene. And I'm like, shit, man. Like, do I pause this? Because they're going to look through their windscreen and see me watching this and think, what is this dude into?
Or
Had
does that
they
make
not
it
like had
worse?
any knowledge? And like if they're sat there and like, oh yeah, that's Bride of Chucky. But at the same time, they might have never seen Bride of Chucky. And they're like, why is this dude watching this? Like, should we call the police?
Look at his
So I
moustache.
had to pause it. I had to genuinely pause it and wait for them to leave before I could continue this movie because I knew what was coming.
That's fabulous. Look at this guy with his dodgy moustache. He looks like he's watching dolls have sex.
Yeah, the mustache certainly didn't help in that situation.
But this scene's just weird. Like it's like you could have insinuated it. I didn't need like rubber burning smell coming out of my telly.
I mean,
So
it's
odd.
not full on Team America World Police level stuff, but it's still
No.
it's still there. It's still there. But it delivers one of the most iconic lines of the film.
I'm
It's like,
anatomically
are you
correct.
wearing a rubber? It's like, I'm fucking made of rubber.
See, I like
And
the
I
bit where
massively misquoted that as well.
see, I like the bit where she's like, could it happen? And he's like, well, I'm anatomically correct, babe, which makes me raise more questions about the good guy factory. Why did they put a penis on Chucky dolls?
And also a fully working vulva within the Tiffany doll.
Yeah,
Like an actual sex doll. Like, like I have a daughter, she's 4 years old. We have Barbies, we have Kens. You obviously know what a Barbie and a Ken looks like when you take the clothes off
yeah.
it. And that's just as what I would assume a Chucky doll would be. But yeah, man,
But
apparently he's got a full dick and she has a full working vagina, which is strange. Very, very strange. In all
well,
honesty,
Yay!
but like the level of need for it in this film is just wild. Like they take the approach of the whole Romeo and Juliet thing with the characters of not just Chucky and Tiffany, but the contrasting characters of
yeah,
the human characters, which I don't know their names. I don't even care what their names are. and they play against each other throughout, which works really, really well in hindsight. Like as a whole, it collectively works really well together and makes some interesting plot developments throughout the film. But this scene in particular, I just don't know if it needed to be there. I know it paves the way for the sequel, which
Yeah.
everybody hates and I hate, and I also hate the ending of this movie. But why? Just
I
why?
don't know.
Like why? I don't know, dude, man. I just don't get it. I don't get why they went there. I don't feel like they needed to go there. I don't
No.
dislike the scene in this movie, but this is one of the scenes in the movie that bitters my taste towards the rest of the franchise. Because I feel like this is one of those moments that highlights when they got to the end of this film and they needed a sequel due to the
Yeah.
success of this movie. There was like, oh well, where do we go? So
Yeah. What's next?
we'll incorporate that, and that's the direction we're going to take. It's like, no, you don't need to take that direction, though, do you?
No, they didn't. Especially not when they had like the scene where Chucky and Tiffany reveal themselves to their two teen captives, I guess they are at this point. And like Chucky sat in the front seat and Tiffany's cooking. Like this whole argument, this whole dynamic of the two, I could quite easily have taken another movie with just the two of them and it would have worked. Like I love the scene where the human characters are playing them off against each other.
Which
And
again
she's
is
like,
set up really, really well throughout. You know, like they do a good job of establishing that early on due to the interactions with Tiffany and the trailer trash park guy at the beginning, and it's like, oh yeah, you have to wash the pots. You know, she cooks, you clean the dishes. That's a true romance. Like it's a romance story in its elements. You know, like that is a basic breakdown of Bride of Chucky. And
and
I think like incorporating that stuff and then pulling it full circle in this scene in particular is really well handled.
yeah, like this scene in particular is great. So you've got the guy at the front going, you can't let her talk to you like that. You can't let her like rule the roost. And then the other end, you've got he just doesn't do anything for you, do you? You're so like hard done by. And then he's like, what about Martha Stewart? She's like, fuck Martha Stewart. Fucking
The
brilliant.
Martha Stewart references in this movie are fucking excellent. And you know the funniest thing is like I didn't know who Martha Stewart was, being a UK resident. You know, she's not on my radar. But there's a recent documentary that came out on Netflix called Martha. If anybody
Awesome.
hasn't seen it, go and watch that documentary, man. That bitch is fucking power. Like what she has achieved in her life and what she has done with her career is fucking amazing. I idolize Martha Stewart. I
And the
fucking
fact,
get it now. I understand the love for Martha Stewart because this queen, absolute queen of a woman. I love her. I
yeah,
think she's fantastic. And the references in this movie, I never used to get when he was like, oh, fuck Martha Stewart and all this lot. I didn't get it before, but then I watched that recent Netflix documentary, and when they started playing upon the Martha Stewart back and forth, it just fucking broke me, man. I just thought it was hilarious, man. And I just wish at the time of this movie's release, I was informed enough to be able to appreciate its relevance.
yeah. Honestly, Martha Stewart's amazing. And the fact, like, if
I
anyone's
love it.
ever watched any of the celebrity roasts where Martha Stewart is on there, she has got a wicked tongue and a ruthless sense of humor where she literally has she's got no filter when she like there's one of them where she takes Snoop down and my god, like Snoop laughs at everything everyone says and like he's looking at her like, do you know what, you're getting real personal now and things are about to go down. And like they do stuff together, loads together, Martha Stewart
They
and
have a
Snoop
cooking
Dogg.
show together.
Exactly. And they've got their own brand of lighters and fucking everything. They're so cool.
It's wild. Honestly, that documentary I watched about her on Netflix is the most insane thing I've ever seen in my life. Dudes, anybody listening, go to Netflix, type in Martha, watch the documentary on Martha Stewart's life. It will fucking change you. It will change you as a person because she is a fucking queen, man. Honestly, I love her to death. I think she is amazing.
She's so cool. Yeah, she sits in the category of dream guest for the show. Like, so they go and retrieve the amulet. That they do that, and then there's they're going to transfer their souls. And long and short of it here, Tiffany's got a conscience. And she's like, well, I don't know whether I want to do it. And this leads to a confrontation between Chucky and Tiffany, which leads to this big fight. And Chucky gets thrown down and he gets thrown in a pit and also gets his arm shot off again. And then he gets like, this is where he hits the line, I always come back. And I'm like, I
like the way that they handled it afterwards. So it's like, I always come back, but fucking death is a bitch.
Yeah, and then he gets shot. Like all of this, like this closing sequence, I love. It works. It's nothing that I would go, oh, that's amazing, but it's really cool. And then they do something really weird that I want to talk to you about because you're a massive Halloween fan. Why the fuck is there a team version of Dr. Loomis arrive right at the end, the full-on coat, holding a pad and paper, like, oh, what's happened here? It's Dr. Loomis, but like from Wish.
Yeah, but he's been in the movie throughout.
He has, but at the end, he literally becomes it takes on that character of, oh well, like he becomes that Dr. Loomis character. I felt so fucking weird.
I don't know. I never saw it like that, man. To be honest with you, I didn't see it from that angle. I thought he was well introduced and slowly drip fed to us all. I knew he was going to come full circle at the end.
Yeah, he's been
So
investigating.
Yeah. I don't know. Man. I think considering all the faults in this movie, that is the least sort of weird I would pinpoint out as being the worst fault of the film.
I think it's the shot where you've got the two of them stood there and you've got Chucky and Tiffany in the ground. Chucky's blown to bits and Tiffany's all burnt up. And then he sort of stands there and he's got this light behind him, almost like a silhouette. And he sort of looks in the hole and he looks up and he's got, it reminds me of the scene where he's like, evil's come to your town, Sheriff. It's got that kind of vibe to it, but only for like, it's probably like 10 seconds. But when I watched it,
like with this movie, like all of that is probably purposeful, you know? Like that's that whole thing. It's like when they kill John Ritter and they nail him in the face and he's laid there covered with like pins coming out of his head, like Pinhead, and Chucky turns around, he's like, I'm sure I've seen that somewhere before. You know, the self-awareness is done throughout. It's like even when they like the best one for me was when it finally comes to fruition and Chucky and Tiffany reveal themselves to him in the camper van as they're traveling down the motorway just after they kill the gay best friend. And he's like, I could tell you a little bit about my backstory, but it would take at least 2 or 3 movies in order to get there. You know, and for me, I was like, brilliant. Like that is so fucking funny. You know, like that's taking that Scream meta approach, but doing it in a way where it's like, we know as an audience, like we understand it as an audience, especially if you're a Child's Play fan. But I know a lot of people who were introduced to Child's Play franchise through this movie. And I still think it works on that level. You know, I still think I think this is one of those movies where you can watch it without watching the priors and still get invested in the storyline, which I think is fantastic that it's manageable to be able to do that 4 movies in and make this film such an isolated thing that you don't need to have background on everything else. Whereas you couldn't just dive straight into Halloween 4. You couldn't dive straight into Nightmare 4. But with Bride, you could do that. And I think I always begrudged it from not being called Child's Play 4. I was like, that really annoys me. Like, because I'm one of those people, it's like, it's got to be in order, it's got to be synchronized, it's got to be consistent. So when they changed the name and it was like, it's Bride of Chucky, I was like, fuck you guys, man. It should be Child's Play 4. But I get it because it is a rebrand. It is a complete rebrand. And don't get me wrong, I think they nail it in this movie. And they set up the rebrand really, really well. Again, hopefully we'll continue this franchise in the future. So I'm not going to dive too much into my opinions on what the rest of them are. But the rebrand initially here, I think, is handled really, really well. And I think it's done especially to a marketable audience, considering where everybody was in terms of their opinions on horror in the late 90s.
Yeah, we need to talk about, and I don't want to talk about it because it's the worst bit of the movie. Should we talk about plastic baby birth?
Again, alien reference.
Yeah, alien reference.
And I have to believe, I have to believe that they didn't think this was going to get a sequel.
I don't know. If they thought it was going to get a sequel, I think they should have tried harder with the sequel, because that movie's so I think the correct term for that movie is problematic on so many different levels of problematic.
I think it's a cause. I think it's a case of history repeating itself. The success of Child's Play 2 was rushed into production with Child's Play 3, which you have your beef with and you have your issues with. I think the success, given the time difference in between, they didn't expect much from Bride of Chucky. I thought they were just making a very personal movie and an ode to horror fans, which I think they executed very, very well. I think this was very much a movie catered to the fans. And I don't think they awfully expected it to be the success it was. And then when we got to Seed, again, it was fucking history repeating itself. And they rushed it into production. It was like, this movie's massive, which Bride of Chucky was. It was fucking insane. Yeah. Everybody fucking loved Bride of Chucky. This movie was everywhere. This was like, especially in my period of life and the age that I was, and when this movie came out, like you couldn't avoid people talking about this film. Like everybody loved it. This was engulfed by not only adult audiences who had followed the Child's Play franchise from the 80s, but then also teenagers who were first stepping their foot into horror movies. And this was a movie that wasn't scary, but it dealt with horror, and it dealt with those kind of elements, and it dealt with the death side of things. You got some gory kills, but it was done in a light-hearted way where your young teenage audiences could watch it and enjoy it. And then I think Seed was just like, yeah, right, this movie's fucking massive. We need a sequel now. Yeah. And I think that is the downfall of where this franchise went because of this. And again, like, I don't hate this movie, but it's just so many elements about it that I'm like, yes, perfect, brilliant, fantastic. Then you did that, you know, and I can see those shining qualities of where they pinpointed the things that they thought they succeeded in and elevated them to a different level when they continued the franchise. And I'm like, fuck off, man. Like, you didn't need to do that. You didn't need to expand on that. That was well done, contained to this singular movie. But then to continue the franchise in that narrative is just disappointing, because that is not where we want it to go.
Like, I would have taken another movie where Tiffany's got her own way, Chucky's got her own way, and they're both doing their own killing, and then they come together for mutual goal. Like that.
I don't even think Tiffany needed to come back.
No,
I don't think she needed to be a staple character in the franchise. You know, I think she could have quite happily been a one and done. And then they focused on Child's Play. They focused on Chucky again going forward. You know, like they rebranded him. They introduced a new audience. They got the audience that they required for it. They got the numbers that they needed for it. And then it was a rebirth of Chucky. You know, I would have quite happily had this be the end and then go into the cult or the curse, whichever one came first. I always get confused with which way it worked. But I would quite happily take Seed out of the equation in terms of my continuity with this franchise. And I still think it works very well if you do that.
I agree. I think, I think you're right. I think Seed's just awful. Should we take a break?
It is like Seed is awful. Seed is awful. And I know you want to cut it off, and I agree with you. We should cut it off. But just to touch on Seed slightly, like, again, Seed is one of those movies where I dislike it more than I love it, but the stuff that they do within it, I do love. There's that scene with Tiffany where she finds Tiffany as an actual actress. She's like, oh, she looks like me. Like, that stuff's really, really cool. The whole scene around the dining table with Redman is fucking brilliant within that movie. There's just so many elements to it that just miss the mark completely, that it's like, you're just incorporating the wrong things that the audience wants. Cut me off, mate, because we need to save that till we do Seed on the show.
Yeah, I'm going to cut you off. Let's have a break.
I think shit like this is funny because there is that vibe, though. Like, there are people on the internet that, like, unironically are like, you want to solve the homeless problem? Just kill them all. Like, they genuinely, like, consider that a solution.
Welcome to Reddit.
Under the Floorboards podcast, hosted by John and Eric, is a horror movie review podcast leaning in hard on comedy delivery. Their show is super fun and super easy to get into. You will binge this show.
Lennon's role in the Beatles was central to the band's identity and success.
But let's not forget that McCartney is just a relentless workhorse.
Between the Facts is brought to you by Phil and Dan of Mondo Street Social Club and dives into the world of true crime, conspiracies and controversial cases. If it is true crime or true crime adjacent, you can guarantee it's going to appear here. These and many other shows are members of the You Run Podcast Network, available at yourunpodcast.com, your home of entertainment. So please go and check out both Under the Floorboards podcast and Between the Facts and all of the other great members we've got at yourunpodcast.com. While you're there, there's links to our shows, links to our socials and everything else in between as well. So go and check those out. And now it's time, whether he's prepared or not. He's so not off
I still can't get the hang of this. Still can't get the hang of
I'll leave it running. It's Mark's recommended account of the week. You ready? Yeah, good. You're ready.
Man, I was fucking born ready.
Yeah, it's funny, and anyone who watches on YouTube or Spotify, when I hit that music, the sort of Mark's quite laid back in his chair, the realization and the leap into action to get his details of his recommended account is hilarious.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, man, I don't do a fucking lot. I just have to turn up each week and talk about the film that I've watched. So when it actually comes to my responsibilities, I was a big champion back in the year prior that we've just gone through, and I was like, yeah, bring back recommended account of the week, man. I fucking miss doing that. I'm doing it now. Don't like it, dude. It's fucking work, mate. It's absolute work for me every week. And every time I'm like, oh shit, I've watched the movie, but I've also got to fucking find some shit to do for the episode.
But you do find great accounts. But you find great accounts. You do. And you showcase wonderful.
And this week is no exception. This week is one that I've kind of, I want to say like we're friends. We're not friends. This dude doesn't talk to me. Do you know what I mean? But I want to accept him as a friend, whether he likes it or not. This week's recommended account is Kev_in_pal_format. Kevin Farrow is his name. This dude is fucking awesome. He has one of the most eclectic VHS collections I've ever experienced in my life. He has some of the most like sort of heavy hitters that I've always wanted to have on my list. And I'm like, fuck, man, like he hit the collecting game early. He rounded up some of the most wanted stuff and he fucking held on to it tight. And I don't blame him for that. This dude's fantastic. He has some of the best collections I've ever experienced. But not only that, he has some of the most insightful horror sort of opinions that you don't kind of get from most people. Like he talks about things on a level that I kind of appreciate. And when I'm watching films and I'm watching horror movies and I'm watching, especially on VHS, which is kind of the way that I try to lean into as much as I can, because that was sort of the era of those movies, and that was the presentation of those films at the time. So you kind of have to take it as this is what people's introductions were to these movies. This dude gets that. And he gets it on a level to the point where he is actually a columnist at Scream Horror Mag, a magazine that I subscribe to, one that I get 2 monthly or 3 monthly. I can't remember when they come out. I think it's 3 monthly. But he's a columnist in it. He has his own segment in there where he has a VHS segment, which is fucking awesome. You know, cool. He presents certain horror movies from his collection. He writes about them. He gives his opinions on them. And he kind of breaks them down. I just think this dude's amazing. I've spoken to him numerous times over the past couple of years. I've even made threats that I'm coming for his job within Scream Magazine. Jokes aside, I am not coming for your job, but if you happen to retire, I will take it. But I think this dude's great. I think he's got a vast collection and his knowledge on horror is exceptional, especially those of the preset horror movies. But I think you guys could learn a lot from him. I think you guys could enjoy some movies that are not necessarily on your common radar. And he has them, he owns them, and he showcases them, and he gives his thoughts on those. And again, he writes a full article within this magazine, breaking each individual movie down as he does for the selected group of movies that he picks for that month. So you can find him on Kev_in_pal_format. Um, I think you guys could really discover some unique horror movies from following his page. And not only that, but I think he has the right to be bigger on social media than he actually is. I was dumbfounded to find not necessarily how low his follower count was, because that feels insulting because his content is incredible. But I just think, like, given how incredible his content is, I think like he should be showcased to a mass audience, and I think everybody should follow him, appreciate him, share his content, and just give him that bump to make him a bigger voice within the community, because this guy has the knowledge. He has the info, he has the knowledge, and his opinions are really intuitive to what he's showcasing. So I think check him out, give him a follow, give him a like. Kev_in_pal_format. And again, if you like his stuff and you see some of his posts and you think that's awesome, just take a quick second, just write, "You Run Podcast sent me here. Your shit's awesome, dude. I'm going to subscribe to Horror Magazine." Check it out. Check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed by it. I think there's some really, really interesting movies that this guy has in his collection that he showcases quite regularly. And I think you'll all appreciate me sort of sending you in that direction. If any, I know I do this quite regularly, but I just think I'm a big VHS collector. And one thing that I've noticed with collecting VHS tapes is the amount of movies that I've sort of amassed and brought into my collection. Because I'm one of those people who will just like, yeah, horror movie, yeah, bang, I'll add it to my collection. And I'll get round to it and I'll watch it. And then I never do, and it just sits on the shelf gathering dust. But then when I actually take the time to sit there and watch it, I'm like, oh fuck, man! Like, how is this not on like the same level as like Hellraiser? How is nobody talking about this movie? And there's so many forgotten movies of the 70s, 80s, 90s, and this dude does a great job of showcasing those forgotten movies that people should be aware of.
And
so please,
you've inadvertently teed up something that you don't know anything about, but I'll let you finish.
No, I'm finished. I just want you guys to go and show him some appreciation, show him some love, and just go and follow him. Go and follow him, man. And just let him know that we sent you there. This guy's got some massive influence. He's at Scream Horror Mag.
Now,
Get a Euron podcast article printed about us.
I've got a little bit of news. Well, not a little bit of news. A little bit of news and kind of a recommended account of my own, and something that you can, Mark, talking about forgotten horror movies and horror movies you didn't know existed. There is a streaming service called Miami Fox Streaming that we've spoken about before. Our good friend Creature Pod, Chunky Larry, good old Chunky Larry, hosts a show over there. And Larry invited me to come and be part of this show. So if you subscribe to Miami Fox Streaming for the couple of dollars that it is, you will get to watch. Now, that's what I call horror, which is a horror documentary diving into some movies from the 80s that yours truly is a part of. And coming later this month, there's another documentary along the same lines. I'm not going to give too much away because I don't know how much I'm allowed to, but I'm also a part of that documentary as well. So there's lots of cool creators talking about wonderful horror movies with clips of the movies. And yeah, it's super, super cool. So if you want to find some of these old movies and then find people like me and Larry and others talking about them, go and subscribe to Miami Fox Streaming.
And also, while you're there, send in a petition and just say, why is Scott there but Mark isn't?
Because Mark's not on TikTok. So Larry didn't contact Mark.
Fuck you, Larry.
Let's do some facts. This is Brad Dourif's favorite movie out of the whole franchise, or it was until they released Curse of Chucky. This was his absolute favorite performance that he had put in. We had issues with the sex doll scene. Wasn't going to happen. Was something that was joked about on set. And in Jennifer Tilly's words, they got the dolls and they kind of just improvised it, and all of the dialogue in that scene was also improvised because it was done on like it's the last minute on set. Oh, should we do a sex scene with the dolls? That'd be funny. And Brad Dourif and Jennifer Tilly are like sat at the side going, "Oh yeah, that's cool." Like, because you mentioned the score on this, which again, you don't see the facts, and you tied in so beautifully to my facts. So they had a planned soundtrack for this that they were going to release all of the songs from the movie, and they were also going to have some songs sung by Chucky and Tiffany. So they were going to do. Tiffany was going to sing "Killing Me Softly" with his song. Chucky was going to sing House of the Rising Sun, and they were going to have a duet of Hit the Road Jack. And when they put this to the studio went, absolutely not. But we'll release the soundtrack with all the cool songs on it, but that's not happening. So it never went ahead. Which
I can understand why, man. That's fucking wild.
It is, but there's part of me that wants to hear Tiffany and Chucky sing Hit the Road Jack. I kind of need that.
There's part of me that doesn't. Like, this movie soundtrack is fucking impeccable.
Yeah.
If I'd have bought the soundtrack on CD and there was like 3 tracks of the ones you've just mentioned, I'd be like, oh, fuck off.
There's something that I deliberately skimmed over in the movie, and Mark knows what it is, but I want to bring it up. In the opening scene, you get the evidence locker where Chucky's body is, and in there you've got Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees' mask. You've got Leatherface's chainsaw. You've got Freddy Krueger's glove, and then when you pans back slightly, it's all in the crate from the movie Creepshow. That is the coolest Easter egg in any horror movie ever. I fucking love it.
It is, but the Jason mask is weak, man.
It is, and I think they had concerns over how protected and how much argument was already happening with that franchise of like, oh, do we want to get caught in a legal battle with that shit, or do we just sling like a random hockey mask in there and everyone knows what it is?
Yeah, which everybody did know what it was, but still, it was
disappointing. It is cool. Like I've always wondered, like, I would love to get, like, we got like Marvel Avengers Endgame, where I would love for someone to be able to orchestrate a movie where all of these horror icons come together. I think.
Do you know what, dude, man? Like, awesome. I grew up in an era where there was like, oh yeah, we're gonna have a Freddy versus Ash and all this shit, man. I fucking hated that concept. I hated that idea. And I still stand by it now, man. I fucking hate the fact that you could blend these universes because they just don't work, in my opinion, together.
Chucky having an interaction with Michael Myers would be fucking movie gold. Because Myers is just going to boot him through a window.
Freddy versus Jason, man. Like,
it did.
So many. No, it didn't. It didn't work, dude. It fucking didn't. And it's the same director who directed this movie, dude. It didn't work. It was fucking stupid, man.
Julia Stiles. So we all know who Julia Stiles is, girl from Save the Last Dance and various other things, the Bourne movies. She was originally cast. Yeah, she was originally cast as the main girl. She was actually on set ready to record and then dropped out because she got offered 10 Things I Hate About You and decided that would be better for her career than Bride of Chucky.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, shit. Sorry, man. You said Julia Stiles and I said ER. That's not the same person that I'm thinking of. Who's the girl who actually got cast in this movie?
Don't know. Random person. I don't remember her name or the actress name.
Something Heigl, something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
She's in ER.
This was like her first movie. I think she did all right.
Yeah, she was okay. You know when Chucky plays with the speaking spell when he's trapped in the little thing and he's just typing bitch? This was actually a nod to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 where Leatherface is playing with the word game and he keeps typing food into it. It's a nod to that. The scene where Tiffany dies in the bath, this was originally going to be the way that Chucky killed the auntie in the original Child's Play. Instead of pushing her out the window, she was going to die in the bath with the TV. So Don Mancini recycled it for this movie.
He recycles a lot. I like that about Don Mancini. Like he brings things back that he couldn't do originally, and he's like,
yeah,
well, I couldn't do it in that movie, so maybe
I'm
I
going to
can
do it in this one.
implement it in this one.
Yeah, and he does that throughout the franchise, and that's really cool. The final one is, when Chucky's going to kill, I think it's the chief, and he's like, he picks up the hammer, and Tiffany's like, nah, predictable. Nah, been done before. Like that. Did you pick up on the reference?
I assumed it was just because he'd done it in the first movie.
Yeah, exactly that. It's because he killed someone with that exact hammer in the first movie. She's like, nah, predictable. I've seen it done before. Like that level of detail and that level of like self-poking, I really enjoy.
Yeah, I think this movie handles that sort of level of satire very well.
This movie cost $25 million to make, which, considering the last one only made 20, is mind-bending. How much do you reckon it made worldwide?
Well, I said 50 on the last one. I know this was a massive success, man. I think this film just fucking elevated to certain levels that nobody expected it to. 70 million.
Should have stuck with your first guess. It was 50, dead on 50, or just over 50. No voicemails, no comments this week because we're still playing we need to record ahead so we get some time off. Caption this. I give you this is the image that you got to caption this week. Is that's your caption? Just boobs.
That's my caption. Yeah, boobs.
We got the first one come from YouTube. This is Hey Internet Eric here. He put, hey baby, trust me, I'll be the best battery operated toy you've ever had. Over on Instagram, Nate Mayer, we stan a short king. Yeah, I'm happy with that. He's a filmmaker. Salvage Horror, with tits like this, screw red flags, and they're a horror account. I want to talk about something like, with tits like that, don't worry about the red flags. Are you a believer in the how hot they are versus how crazy they are scale? And the hotter they are, the crazier they are, and you have to find that sweet spot of the crazy you can cope with the hotness level you want.
Oh yeah. Yeah, 100%, man. I've lived it. I've lived it. I've made that mistake. I'm committed to it now. My wife is extremely fucking hot. She's fucking batshit crazy, and I've learned from the errors of my ways, but I'm committed to it now. I'm not going to leave her. She's fucking great. She's the mother of my children. But she's fucking hot. But she's fucking nuts, dude. She's fucking nuts. Like on an extreme level, she is mental, So the balance is, I'm a strong believer in that sex versus normality kind of level. I feel like I've kind of picked the balance slightly wrong, where I favoured
too much crazy.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to regret it now. I'm not going to sit here now. I'm like, oh no, yeah, I've made a bad decision. I didn't. I didn't make a bad decision. She's fucking exceptionally sexy, and I love my wife unconditionally. But she is fucking wild, man. She is a fucking wild woman, and I get it more now than I ever have in my life. Would I do it again differently? Probably not. No. The benefits definitely outweigh the negatives. And as a man, I've kind of learned to balance it over time. But fuck me, man. Yeah, I'm a strong believer in that scale. I've put it into practice in my life. It works. It's true. It's fucking real. I'm living it, dude. I'm living it.
And I am too. And you need to learn to live with the crazy. Like if you want the super hot, you need to live with the strange behaviors that come with that hot lady. At least Lisa has some fucking strange ass behaviors, and I'm like, She'll say so, and I'm like, okay, I think you're joking. Oh no, you're not joking. Okay, this is real, right?
No. They're never joking, dude. They're never joking. They're never joking.
No,
If
we'll just
if
roll
they
with
say
it.
something that makes you feel uncomfortable, it's true. It's true. They mean it. They mean it. They're. Dude.
Yeah,
I could dedicate an entire fucking 4-hour podcast to the level of conversation that I want us to dive into about this
yeah.
fucking graph that we're
Let's
talking
move
about. So
on.
we need to swiftly move on before I get myself a divorce. But fuck yeah, bitches be tripping.
Yeah, Dave B movies. What do you mean your rabbit is better? And finally, pop culture reflections. I like shortbread cookies with my milk, please, and thank you. Perfect. We have a game of higher or lower, which is a recycled game that we recycle from time to time. Normally, when I'm pushed for time or
You all know the
we
show.
yeah, we've got something better coming next week. We've got guests and we've got all sorts. So we're going to play a game of higher or lower, and this is starting with movie budget. So I'll make it really easy. We're going to start with Bride of Chucky. So they had a $25 million budget. Did Child's Play 3 have a higher budget or a lower budget than that?
Ooh, I wonder, considering we have recorded these episodes in quick succession and we have just done Child's Play 3, which I already
Yes.
know the answer is lower.
It is correct.
Oh, I'm really torn.
Yeah, no, you've got it. It's fine. It'll get harder from here on out because we haven't covered the others. Cult of Chucky, did that have a higher budget or a lower budget than Child's Play 3?
Right, so what was the budget for Child's Play 3?
13 million.
Oh, dude, that the time has passed, man. Like the inflation and stuff like that. I think it's lower. I think it's lower because that was a very, very independent movie. It didn't get a theatrical release, which it should have done because it's probably one of the best in the franchise. Yeah, I'm gonna say lower.
It is lower. It had a budget of $5 million, which for what they produce is fucking phenomenal.
Amazing.
The original Child's Play, did that have a higher budget or a lower budget than $5 million?
Oh fuck, man, that's really, really difficult.
Yeah,
Really difficult. When did so
original
Child's Play
88.
was 89? Oh, 88.
88.
And the newest one was the one we're comparing it to, obviously, not the newest
To
one.
I want to say 2003.
2-2? I think 2-2.
Yeah,
I think it's 2-2.
maybe.
The inflation in that over the time, fucking hell. But that was directed by Tom Holland. Was like he was a shit back when that movie came out. I think it's lower just based on inflation alone.
It actually wasn't. Child's Play 1 had a $9 million budget.
Fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Seed of Chucky, did that cost more than $9 million or less?
More. Purely based on the success of Bride.
It did. It had a $12 billion budget. So again, not a huge budget in comparison to Bride. Child's Play 2, did that cost more or less than Bride of Chucky? Than Seed of Chucky? Seed of Chucky was 12. Yeah.
The original Child's Play was 9.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, man, it was a fucking.
That's hard,
80s,
isn't it?
bro. It was the 80s, man, and it was like they weren't pumping the money right. But I think, given the grandeur of Child's Play 2, I want to say more, but I feel like I might be massively wrong on this. I think it's more. I think Child's Play 2 had a bigger budget than
Seed.
Whatever we said. Seed.
Yeah, it did. Had a $13 million budget. And finally, Curse of Chucky, did that cost more or less than Child's Play 2?
Less. Because again, that was a straight to DVD.
A lot less. Again, that had a $5 million budget. Roundups, I'm going to let Mark take this one first. Because again, like last week, I think this week I'm going to be the high point and Mark is going to be the downer.
I think you're wrong. I don't think I am going to be the down point on this. I think there is a lot of elements within this movie that I want to applaud. I think I love the direction they decided to take it in. I think it needed that rebirth of the franchise. I think it was hit in an era where change was necessary in order to make something like this feel relevant to new audiences while keeping old audiences invested. I love the look of Chucky. I love the voice acting from Brad Dourif. I think the introduction of Tiffany Valentine, played by
Jennifer Tilly.
Jennifer Tilly, is outstanding. I think she's a great addition to this movie and this story and the development of it. I think it was amplified in a way that was necessary in order to keep things fresh and revitalized, and not the same tired, worn out tropes that we've become accustomed to with so many horror franchise sequels, such as Halloween, even though I love it, Freddy, the Hellraiser sequels, the Friday sequels. Like everything was a constant rinse and repeat,
Yeah.
rewash, retread, refresh of what we'd already experienced. So, like, I feel like this was a breath of fresh air in terms of advancing the plot and the story that we've become accustomed to. So there's so many elements of this movie that I love and appreciate, but I just think it is so hindered by the ongoing continuation of the franchise that came after it. And it's like I've tried to explain this so many times throughout this episode without completely hitting the nail on the head, because I don't actually know what the head of the nail is. I don't understand myself what my problem is with this movie, because this movie is fantastic and it's a really, really good film. The score's fantastic, the cast's fantastic, the kill sequences are great, the comedy is balanced perfectly, but I'm so hindered by my opinions on what comes after it that I can't help but try to isolate this movie on its own, because every time I think of this movie, I consider it the peak, but the downfall.
Yeah.
Like it hits those high notes so well, but like those high notes that it hits
Set up
introduces so
everything.
many
Yeah.
elements to the stories that come after it that I'm just like, you fucking just you mishandled that so badly, and I blame this movie for it. And I shouldn't blame this movie for it, because if you isolate this movie on its own, it's fucking entertaining as shit, man. It's so funny, it's so on the nose, especially appropriate to the era that it came out in. It
Yeah.
balances it so nicely. Um, but I blame it for so many other things that it's hard to see past that in a certain level. Like if they'd have just ended on Bride, I'd have been like, yeah, that
Perfect.
was fucking brilliant, man. Like, it was such an entertaining story. I loved what they did with that so much. But I hold this film as itself so responsible for everything that came after it that it's so hard to see past it. Again, I'm not going to dive too much into it, but I said this about Dream Warriors and Halloween 4 and so forth. It is that movie in the franchise where it's great, but it's also responsible for so much. Um, for me, it's a 3.5 out of 5. It probably deserves higher, and I know it deserves higher, but as a personal scoring, which is what I do, I base this based on my own personal enjoyment for it. Every time I watch it, I just see so many open wounds that lead to so many disappointing aspects going
Yeah.
forward that I can't help but like. I just can't see past it, man. And I wish I could. I wish I could. I wish I could just watch this movie and enjoy it for what it is. But every time they do certain elements and introduce certain characters or certain aspects of the story, I'm like, fuck, that's where Seed came from. Oh, you did that in
Yeah.
Seed because of that. You did that in Bride, and I'm like, and it just leaves a sour taste in my mouth, man. And it's disappointing that it got to that level. But yeah, it's a 3.5 out of 5, man. And I know it deserves higher because it's a great movie, but I don't know where else to go with it.
Okay. Well, this movie's shit. Like, seriously, can we all stop pretending it's not? The cast outside Jennifer Tilly and Brad Dourif are fucking atrocious. It relies on nostalgia and referencing other movies like Scream, like Friday the 13th, like all the other movies like Hellraiser. It relies on that purely to get nostalgia pops, and it wants to be meta. and it's fucking dreadful. The plot is ridiculous. It completely unpicks the work of the first 3 movies. It has a dull sex scene, and a doll gives birth in this movie. There is literally nothing to defend this movie in any way, shape, or form. And I fucking love every single second of it for all of the reasons I just listed and more. Jennifer Tilly is fabulous in this movie. For me, she is the crowning jewel of this movie in particular, and she's one of the crowning jewels of the franchise. The combination of Jennifer Tilly and Brad Dourif together is pure comedy gold, and their back and forth is exaggerated but also so relatable to anyone who's been in a volatile relationship ever. It is a dumb, silly 90s slasher movie, which is exactly what we wanted for this month. It is a great horror comedy. Some of the jokes are sexist, some of the jokes are inappropriate, and I laugh at all of them and make no apologies for that. It's one of my favorite slashers from the 90s because of what it is. It is a very standalone, we're kind of going to break lots of rules and kind of do what we want. Yes, we retconned our whole franchise and changed the plot, but fuck it, it's our franchise. We can do that. Yes, we're going to reference everything. We're going to fuck with everything that we can. It's a shitty 90s slasher, but it's a 4.5 out of 5, and I adore it.
Solid, man. I didn't expect you to go that high, I'll be honest.
No, and the look on your face when I was tearing it, you're like, oh man, this is good. This is dark. What's he doing? Next week, we're going to be back with a brand new episode. We're going to be joined by Justin from Pop Culture Reflections, a member of the network and super cool guy everyone's going to love. And we're going to be reviewing Freddy's Dead, which I'm really excited for. Justin's also going to take on Broken Spirit and try and take that top spot. But until then, fuck Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart can kiss my ass. See you next week.
Cheers, guys. See you next week.
You want to die tonight?
Jokes you tell sets the scene. I hang on every word lost in the screen. Your passion for fear is contagious enough. You make me believe in Mark's overblown roundups. You run podcasts or a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too. Your words paint pictures of darkness and dread, leaving me grinning long after I fled. You run podcasts or a movie review, unveiling facts and playing games too.